Welcome to Picks with the Professor, the show where an actual statistics professor and his friends give you sports betting tips. I'm your host, Professor Sides. For the latest updates and information, you can find us on Twitter, Facebook, and for some extra free picks on TikTok. All those links are in the description. This college basketball episode covers select games scheduled to be played on Friday, December 2nd, 2022. In case you're new here, check out the webpage on the banner. It's www.pickswiththeprofessor.com/new for a primer and explanation. Otherwise, the goals for this episode are to share key information about these games, give you some things to think on, and explain why certain plays are being made. We never recommend blindly tailing or fading any pick, but rather to hear the justifications and thought processes to make sure you're fully on board with us or against us before investing your hard-earned money. Remember that Sideline has graded plays on every single game, but as always, take what you like and leave the rest. And if you have questions about these or other games, the best place to get those answered is on the Discord chat, which can be accessed through Patreon. Link is in the show description. As always, remember that there are no locks in gambling, so what Sideline provides are loves, likes, and leans. It is A, B, and C grades to indicate its confidence level with respect to scaling wagers. We're only covering a subset of games in this episode, so for the full slate of picks, check out the Google Sheet linked in the show description or on the website homepage. Lastly, please understand that good and bad variance will occur, so as much as we'd like to see will be profitable each and every day, that is an impossible reality for any gambler. Jake, we record these the night before, the next day. I always hesitate. We do it like late enough in the night that we kind of know how the night's going, but not so late in the night that we know how the night went. So I always feel a little bit hesitant saying how we did specifically, especially, we talk about like this is just a subset of games that we're kind of highlighting here. The model has picks on every single game. So far, it seems like a decent night, but it's like we're at that point now where it's like there's still a few things out there that could really go sideways for us,
Yeah, that's the only issue with yesterday or today, picking some of the late games. You won't know how it ends till because of the Arizona State game is really close. I mean, Arizona, what is happening there?
Well, or what happened to Youngstown State? I mean, I don't know how many people saw that. I pulled it up on one of my screens on ESPN Plus, and tie ball game, end of regulation. They have the ball, and the shot goes off the back of the backboard, like the backboard, like the stuff that's holding the backboard up is what the shot went off of on a sideways falling over three. Then they have the ball tied. Yeah, second overtime or the first overtime tie ball game with the ball and it airballs it. I'm like, guys, you said a win. You had two chances. And look, if they lose the game in double overtime and they get decent looks and they just go off the rim, I'm like, you know what? That happens. But like to not even like get the ball to the rim, I'm like, come on, guys.
That was ridiculous. And then the fact that with two of our picks, they went 2 of 20 from 3 in either game is insane until the last minute of the game. Like Creighton had hit 4 threes in the last minute, but hit 2 before that. The entire game somehow still covered and fighting for it with Arizona State here, and they're in the same situation.
Yeah, if Creighton hit more threes in that game, they might pull the upset. Like and it's part of that's credit to Texas defense and Beard's defense is fantastic. So it's partially credit to the defense for making those threes not just wide open great looks, right? But it's also a little bit of you do expect to make a few more than that, right?
Yeah, well, two of 23 is what they were at some point, and you're like, okay, you can knock them down for Beard's defense, but 2 of 23 is a little crazy. And
right.
I was texting with a couple of friends of mine, and we were saying, I said, we got to reevaluate what we think about this Texas team, especially after watching that, because Gonzaga is not that great right now until they find guard play, and they needed all those turnovers, and this Creighton team had their worst shooting night ever, and we're right there with them on Texas home court. So I might need to reevaluate that number 2 ranking.
Yeah, it's so tough early on in the season. That's what kind of I've tried to harp on a lot at this point is, Wright State, for instance, just did not show up. And I just like I've been saying a lot this week, and I want to just remind everybody again, you got 5 games a year. Teams just are not going to show up. 5 games a year, they're going to look fantastic. This is one of the 5 for Wright State that they just didn't show up. I think they're still a better team than that. But you do have to start trying to figure out early on exactly where a team falls. And if you can figure that out on certain teams before the rest of the market does, that's where you can really profit. If you can kind of say, no, I'm going to take a stance on this team. It's in baseball. That's what the model did all season with the Mariners and the Indians and a couple other teams. Where I was kind of like, hey, we're going to take a stance on these teams. They're better than the market realized. We're just going to ride them most nights, and it worked out really well. And it's kind of the same thing here, that the model's trying to do the same thing and trying to guide us. But with so many teams, the more you can kind of pick out and say, yeah, this team is, I have this opinion on, I think they're better, I think they're worse, and everyone else realizes that I think this bad game isn't just one of those 5. I think they aren't that good. Or you say, hey, I know everyone else is dogging them because this bad game, but I think that was just their one stinker and they're better, right? Trying to figure that stuff out early on in the season can really make the month of December a make or break month for you, I think.
Yeah, it really can, because with the non-conference play, teams are trying to figure out who they are, and at the same time, you're trying to figure it out. And so come halfway through January, teams know their rotation and things. So this is the time where it can really tank your basketball gambling season or really set you up for a great year.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, well, before we get to today's game, some reminders. Please hit that like button if you're on YouTube. Also, if you aren't yet, please consider subscribing or following. It's free, and if you turn on notifications, you won't miss any of the college basketball, MLB, or college football content that this channel provides. I've already mentioned the Patreon, but check it out if you haven't yet. Lots of great benefits to be found there. Above and beyond what we do here, membership starts at just $3 per month. That gets you the plays of the day, 3-0 here today on Thursday. So that's always fun, including a plus odds winner. So lots of reasons to check that out. If you haven't yet, though, we're still thrilled that you're here. Let's get to it all. It's courtesy of BetOnline. Sign up link in the show description and current as the time of this recording on Thursday night. Jake, of all the A plays that the model has locked in, your favorite, the A-plus play of the day, at least in your book here, is Kent State laying 7 at home against South Dakota State. So it'll be a 6 o'clock Central tip. Sideline says this should be 9.3. And so I think it's pretty clear why the model gives us an A grade. It just says you're getting a couple points of value. And I want to kind of just iterate real quick before we get into it here. When the model says a little bit more than 9, it's actually 7. That turns out to a cover probability in the upper 50%. It's like we always talk about. There's no locks in gambling. This is just a play that we think is going to win in the upper 50% of the time. That makes it a good investment. Still means it's going to lose 40% of the time. If the weatherman says it's going to rain 40% of the time and you go out and it's raining, you're not like, oh, fire the weatherman. You're like, okay, it rained, right? And so it isn't always going to win, but we think that on average, Kent State's going to win by about double digits in this case, but we only have to lay 7, which gives us some good advantage here. Jake, what's your take on why Kent State -7 is such a great pick?
Like, Kent State's a pretty good team. I mean, you just had to watch the Houston game to kind of figure that out. They hung right with what's probably the best team going right now. And then the loss before that was to Charleston, who's a pretty good team.
Just started the year on fire.
Yeah, and I mean, that was on the road too. So both those games were on the road, and then both of them were 2-point games. You can't really knock them there. Like, they've got an above average offense, but just barely above average. But it's their defense that's really good. They play at a very fast paced game, so they're real fun to watch. I mean, you can't really judge off the Houston game with the scoring in the 40s, but they actually play a pretty fast, fun game.
Speaking of Houston, I just have to interject. I had mentioned this, I believe. I don't know if it's to you or to cousin Jared or both of y'all, but like, those two teams play later this month, and just set the total in double digits. I'm not sure it gets to 100 with those two teams. It should be a fun game, but man, that game's going to be fascinating to watch.
Yeah, it's going to be insane. And then, like, the South Dakota State team is still getting a little too much respect for what they were last year. I mean, their best players on Creighton now. They've lost 3 of their last 4. Their only win in that 4 was against a very bad Valpo team. They like to play the same style of game and pace that Kent State does, and that plays right in the Kent State's hands. There's just not enough offense on this team, and they don't play good enough defense to hang with Kent State.
Yeah, Kent State, one of those rare teams who wants to play pretty fast, but has a fantastic defense. Again, you don't see that combination quite as often. They'll get up and down the court, but I mean, they will suffocate you defensively, and that should be enough at home to get them outside of the 7, at least in our opinion. To another A-grade play, 6 p.m. Central, Wake Forest at Clemson. We're getting 3 points with Wake Forest in a conference game here. Sideline says this should be a pick 'em, that Wake Forest is actually the better team going on the road. And so that offsets with the home court. It's an anything can goes type game. Says to grab the 3. Sometimes with these small numbers, especially with the model thinking of pick 'em, I think the money line makes a lot of sense as well. If that's something that you would look into, you're probably looking at, plus 140-ish. Something like that makes a lot of sense, I think, in my opinion. Jake, why is Wake Forest, either grabbing the 3 or the money line, a great investment in your book?
Yeah, that's both the plays I'm going to be making, just kind of like Arizona State for last one. I think it's gonna be a fun game to watch. I think these teams are like Wake Forest might be slightly better, but I think they're just very similar. So grab me the 3 points, and I think especially basketball at three. If it's predicted to be a 3-point game, that's a toss up because it's one possession. What's funny is they do it with complete opposite styles. They're just it's just completely different ways of looking at the game. And both teams have some good wins and some really head scratching losses. It's going to be a fun game to watch just because these two teams are so evenly matched. But like in these kinds of games, even on the road, I like to trust the team that has the better guards, and I think Appleby's the better guard, and I like Forbes. I think he's a better coach than Clemson's coach. I can't remember his name off the top of my head, but I think the Appleby and Hunter duel that'll be for there should be a great one to watch. But like I said, I think Appleby's the better guard. They've got the better coach in Forbes. I think that's enough, especially getting 3 points in a tight game is enough to make that the play. But I like them on the money line too.
Yeah, it's like you talked about. They're very similar with their talent level, but their pacing and the way they play just completely opposite. Wake Forest wants to go a lot faster. Clemson wants to really grind it out. It'll be a clash of styles. I'm not really sure who will prevail there, but again, should be a lot of good offensive possessions because both teams a little bit better offensively than defensively. But yeah, a coin toss type game, getting 3 points. It's hard to turn that down. Or like you said, the corresponding plus odds of the money line, whatever your style of play there is, or splitting the wager between the two is never a bad idea as well. Of all the B-sides that we've locked in already tonight, 6 p.m. Central, Canisius at Siena. Siena is an 8.5-point favorite. Someone says it should be a 9-point spread. I think this is as simple as the home team's a lot better than the road team, right? What else do you have to add to the dialogue beyond that?
Yeah, we need to start respecting Siena a little bit more here. They've got 2 wins against Power 6 teams. They just beat Seton Hall, beat Florida State. I know they dropped a couple of games in the middle of the schedule, but I think they were trying to figure out who they were. Like their last game was a win at Seton Hall. That's big. They've got Javian McCullum, who's a great player leading the team in scoring and assist. He's getting 17 a game, about 5 assists, and he also plays really good defense as he's averaging still and a half a game. Like they're a very, very solid team. Not like they're going to come in and upset somebody in March Madness or anything, but they're a very good team. And I think
for that conference, they're pretty respectable.
Yeah, and I've Canisius, however you say it, I've got them as a bottom tier team. I'm not sure why places are loving them a little bit more. They did. I'm not sure how they did it, but they beat St. Bonaventure, but they've lost every other game against D1 competition, and if Siena gets their turnovers under control, and it's not like Canisius' defense is going to force a ton of turnovers either. Yeah. I think they stand a good chance to win this by 20. If they can just not be as sloppy as they have been, but I think those turnover numbers, if you're looking at the averages and per possession, are a little inflated with the teams they've played. So I think Siena's just got more than enough to get this done by double digits.
It's a tough thing when you're betting college basketball, and I may refer someone to this exact segment here, if depending on comments that are being made. But to me, this is my personal take. Betting college basketball is a large sample type thing. If you're trying to pick 2 or 3 games a night, I'll try to highlight my best picks because I know people want that because they take my best picks and other people's best picks and that sort of thing. So try to highlight that, and that's kind of what we're trying to do here. But there's just so much variability, and part of that variability is, as we talk about sometimes, on occasion a team plays really well, on occasion a team plays really poorly. But the other thing is that, we talked about it a little bit in yesterday's show with the conference game. If Siena shows up and says, this is a conference game, we've got to go out there and assert our dominance, they should absolutely win this game by double digits. Their offense is weaker than their defense, but still better than either of the units that Canisius is going to throw out on the field. And their defense is a lot better. And so they should absolutely go out there at home and take care of business in a conference game if they're motivated to. You just never know. And that's what we talk about, the variability. You talk about sometimes the team doesn't shoot the ball well, bricks a bunch of 3-pointers, stuff like that, right? So that's why I always tell people, I don't say you should necessarily bet every game, but bet as many games as you're comfortable betting, because that variability, you want that in to get larger, to decrease that variability. If you like it, play it. If you don't like it, don't play it, right? Don't play anything you don't like. But I always tell people, if you like 5 games, bet 5. If you like 10, bet 10. If you like 15, bet 15. There's no magic rule that says, you have to only bet 3 a day, or you only have to bet 1 a day. And if you like none, bet none, right? And that some days it's like that. But the point being, you never really know how it's going to play out. But gosh, if this plays out like it should, Siena should at home in a conference game go out and dominate, and it should be a pretty straightforward, matchup.
Yeah, it really should. I mean, and I'm going to kind of put you on the spot here. Do you think basketball is a little more variable, but just because it's so much easier to score? Like in football, you've got to drive 50, 60, 70 yards, so you got to beat that defense 7-8 times so get in the end zone. In baseball, you've got to beat a pitcher. Like, I think with basketball being easier to score, do you think that adds the variability to it?
I think the variability has come. I'll kind of half answer your question. I think there's more variability the last 5 to 10 years than there ever was before with basketball, because the reliance on the 3 ball is going to create it. Not to get too deep into the statistical weeds, but when you take open threes, it's a higher expected value, but it also increases your variance. And so you'll end up with more nights where you shoot 45% from 3 and look great, and more nights where you shoot 10% from 3 and look terrible. Think about the Rockets in that playoff game that everyone talks about, that sort of thing. When there's so many more 3 balls being shot, we've seen this track the last 5 or so years going through the roof. That creates more variability. Every sport has their own runs of why things are variable or less variable. In football, you see a little bit of decreased variability with hurry up offenses, with with more possessions, creates less variability as well. So there's just different things that can, with college basketball too. If we get the shot clock down even further, that's going to decrease the variability, because more possessions means less chance for wonky things to happen. So there's a lot of different factors to that, but all the 3 balls is what makes college basketball just so variable, and the shorter game, and fewer possessions in the NBA. The NBA having a shorter shot clock and a longer game time, you have way more possessions in the NBA. So the variability in the NBA has to do with teams just taking a night off, guys taking a night off, that sort of thing. But in the playoffs in the NBA, the better team in a 7-game series tends to win. In college basketball, a 7-game series, still a lot of things can happen, right? So, just again, like I said, a 3 ball, fewer possessions, that sort of thing, shorter game, I think just creates a lot of extra variability. We've gone off the rails here. To a bonus B-side for you, 6 p.m. Kennesaw State at Mercer. Mercer is favored by 5 at home. Sideline says it should be closer to 6. Jake, I have no idea your analysis. We haven't talked about this, but I mean, this is a spot I love right here when I think the home team's better, and I'm laying a number around 5. I think we might have talked about this yesterday, right? Or one of those, hey, they can get out there, they can win by 10, or if it's close, fouls can get us outside that number. So something like this is always a spot that I love. What's your take on Mercer -5?
I think it's more about Kennesaw's defense not being good enough to allow them to cover. They play at a slow pace, and it's definitely to hide their defense, because they just don't want you to have as many possessions against their defense. And, I mean, Mercer's pretty balanced scoring. They've got 4 guys in double figures and another guy knocking on the door. They shoot the ball pretty well. They hit pretty good from the free throw line. Their defense isn't anything great, but it doesn't have to be, because Kennesaw State's not that good of a team. And their defense is so bad that I think Mercer will slowly pull away throughout the game, because Kennesaw State won't be able to stop them.
Yeah. All right. Well, then that takes us to the Jake on a Limb segment here. Model has a C grade pick on this one. Doesn't really see much of an edge, but you see something you like here. It's taking Charlotte -6.5. Model says it should be 7. Are you backing the Model C grade pick at Charlotte -6.5, or are you taking the 6.5 with Appalachian State on the road?
Yeah, me and Sideline are seeing this the same. We're gonna lay the 6.5 with Charlotte. I mean, this sounds counterintuitive, but the more I watch them, the more, which is kind of driving me nuts, the more I'm a fan of Charlotte, because they are the slowest team. Somehow there is a slower team, and I do mean a slower team. But
just one.
Yeah, I don't know who it is, and I'd hate to see them. But Charlotte, they're just a very solid team. They've got a good game plan going out there. They're playing slow. They take their sweet time. They're averaging like almost 21 seconds before they get a shot off each time. They run everything through Ali Khalifa, who's a big guy. We've talked about how that slows offenses down, and he's doing very, very well. They've got a good guard to go with it. They play extremely well on defense. They make teams almost take 20 seconds before they take a shot each possession. So that's just eating all that clock. That's the only thing that makes me slightly worried about this one is with few possessions that are in a Charlotte game, and it's not like Appalachian State plays that much faster. It's just not a lot. There's a lot of things that can be weird, and they might not cover 6. But I just don't think that Appalachian State is going to out Charlotte in this game, and I think Charlotte, especially being at home, will do enough to cover this and win by 8, 9, 10, and it'll feel a lot more because of how slow and deliberate they are.
North Texas is the team slower than Charlotte. Cousin Jared's talked a lot about them too as a team that's just like blind under bet them until the totals start dropping to like 105 or 110s or something stupid, right? But yeah, it's an interesting point. Appalachian State plays a little bit slower and sometimes tries to grind out a game. And when you're playing another team that wants to do that, that sometimes doesn't work really well because it's a strength on strength. But when someone's better than you at that, especially on the road, maybe not a recipe for success. No. Charlotte's been a fun team to back from a betting perspective this year. They've impressed me. I think they're seemingly a program that's really on the rise here, and kind of trying to play the Virginia playbook. Virginia's the third slowest team this year, and of course, there's been a lot of years where Virginia's been running away with that title, or sleeping away with that title, slowing down, snailing away with the title.
All I know is running is not the right word.
Running is not the right word. But yeah, Charlotte trying that now, and it seems to be working for them pretty well. So we're going to lay the points there. Model doesn't like it a ton, laying the 6.5, but you think it's a good investment for the people. Yep. Which takes us to our must-see TV spot here. A couple games to choose from. The one that we're going to highlight that should be on your radar, 8 p.m. Central. Illinois is playing at Maryland. Illinois is getting 2 points. Sideline says it's pretty much a toss-up and gives Illinois +2 a B grade. Jake, what's your take on this one?
Yeah, I know it seemed obvious to kind of go with Baylor Gonzaga. That's the one that was being hyped up and stuff. But I think both those teams are still trying to figure out who they are this year, and I don't think it'll be near as fun as watching this conference game like that.
It feels absolute conference game for sure. It feels a little bit like Baylor and Gonzaga are on the down and Illinois and Maryland are on the up, which adds a little bit more maybe excitement, a little more fun, a little more like I don't know where the ceiling is for either one of these teams. They both look really good, whereas Gonzaga and Baylor is like more like I don't know where the floor is for either one of these teams. Makes it a little bit more of a depressing feel, right?
Yeah. But it's just like I said, it's a conference game, and it also happens to be the only time these two teams play, which could be big for Big Ten play. So I think there's a lot more meaning on this game. He's like Maryland is really surprised that their first-year coach, Kevin Willard, came over from Seton Hall and then hasn't skipped a beat, has really have them in a much better place than where they were last year. And then, Illinois got a completely new team, really. Everybody
just completely and just completely reloading, lost a bunch of people, no big deal. We could solve this problem.
Yeah, and I don't know that there's two more opposite teams out there and how they like to play. Maryland is in that Virginia Charlotte playbook where they want to slow it down, and Illinois doesn't want to stop ever. They just want to keep you in a track meet. Just had to watch that Syracuse game for them just explode and run away from them after it was a close game for a while. It's just, I think Illinois has played some better teams and has been tested more. Maryland hasn't quite yet. And I think these teams are very similar to each other talent-wise. The last time Illinois played a team that slowed it down like this was Virginia, who's a very, very good team. But if you look at it, it was 32 free throws to 9 free throws. I don't think we're going to see that kind of advantage here with Maryland. And, that was a 9-point game. You're talking 20, almost 22 or whatever math is on the free throw difference. That could really spell 9 points easy. I don't think you see that kind of disadvantage for them. So I think they've stand a good chance of winning this outright. That's kind of where I'm going to be playing it more so than the +2. But +2 is a great grab here because I'm not sure. Maryland hasn't gone through that test yet, and I think they're in for a little bit of awakening here.
Yeah, that, I always tell people I never know where the number's going to go, that, 7 out of 10-ish times the number will track towards where my model goes. It doesn't always, right? Again, I can't predict the future, unfortunately. But this is one where if I could really see this getting closer to a pick 'em for sure. But in the event it doesn't, and it gets up to 2.5, 3, if it gets up even higher, you start liking it even more just thinking at a conference game. It just, obviously anything can happen in sports, but it does feel like this could be a really tight game, down to the wire, last team with the ball wins type thing. And if you can get 2.5, 3 or something like that, like you feel like you kind of win no matter who wins, because it's just going to be a really tight, great basketball game. But like I said, then if it trends towards a pick 'em, then now you're thinking about, you missed out on potentially plus odds or something like that. So I always just say, grab what you want to grab here early on, grab the 2, grab the money line at the plus whatever, 110, 115 or whatever you're getting. It should be a great game, and anything can happen. And I always, in a game where you think anything can happen, grabbing some points, grabbing some plus odds always makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, and I mean, this, like I said, this game could really mean something coming. Like this, you could easily see these teams fighting for number 2 in the Big Ten behind Purdue, or even like having a leg up on Purdue. Like it's one of those that I think those are the 3 best teams in the Big Ten right now. And I think it'll kind of stay that way. So this game has a lot of importance. And if I can see that the coaches can.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. We've talked a little bit in the Discord about the Big Ten. It just seems like it's going to be a bloodbath this year. There's 9 teams that you can name that all might be top 25 teams. And you have to assume a couple of them are going to rise to the top. It looks like maybe one of these teams will. Looks like Purdue will, right? And maybe a couple of them will fall out, but you don't really know who at this point. Just like there's a lot of really good teams. And so if you're a coach and you didn't play in this game for a conference game, you're kind of thinking, man, I wish my early conference game was against a Penn State, not a good team to get things going. But, the other way you got to just pitch it to your players is, hey, we got a chance to have a statement win here. Get one in the bank. Let's go out and get it. It should be a fantastic game.
Yeah, and the schedules are weird. Like I don't exactly know Illinois' schedule, but Maryland's got this conference game, and then I think their next game is Tennessee. They're playing non-conference. I would have thought start of the conference, and here we go. But nope, we're gonna.
No, I think a lot of these teams they've thrown these one or two random conference games out there, and then they go back to non-conference. I think they're doing more non-conference stuff through the final schedule, through the holidays or something, until they jump back into conference play. Right around the new year. Yeah. All right, that's going to take us to the overtime segment. I'm going to take us home here with a pick, and I'm gonna do a little okie dokie here. I'm going to tease you a little bit with Gonzaga Baylor. Obviously, we talked about this a little bit. It is going to be a fantastic game. And here's all I will say about Gonzaga Baylor is if you have the early projections for sideline, $15 a month. Again, the number tends to move that model. Go ask cousin Jared about it. He will preach every day. He's looking at that and grabbing incredible value of getting good lines before the numbers move. And that doesn't guarantee winners. It just means more times than not, it's going to help get you on the right side of that. If you had the early projections, you had an A play already locked in on this game. We don't have an A play on it because the numbers moved. So no A play on this one. I'm just going to tease it and just say, hey, if you had the early projections, you already have a great play locked in on this one. So instead, I'm going to give you a different one. I'm going to talk a little bit off radar here. 6 p.m. Central, Boston University, -3 at Merrimack. I love this matchup because I think Boston's getting a lot of disrespect from the fact that they've been pretty terrible in years past. And this team isn't that good, but Merrimack is atrocious this year. They are really bad. I know it's a home game, but I think Boston can go out there and win pretty handily. I like laying a short number. Sideline says it should be about a 6-point spread. I mean, I don't really know what else to say on this one other than this is a situation where we talk about there's a lot of games, a lot of these small schools. Ken Palm's number is right around 3, and I think that's what they've done here is they've just hung that number, and they're just going to they've got low limits right now, and they're going to let the number do what it does. So hopefully you're watching this here at night or early in the morning. My hunch is this is going to close a lot closer to the number that Sideline has at 6. So I'm going to lock in 3 here. Hopefully you get as low a number as possible, but it should be at least 5, if not 6. Boston should win this game pretty handily. They aren't great, but they are a whole lot better than Merrimack is. I think Merrimack now is as bad as Boston might have been a couple of years ago.
Yeah, like this Boston team's really turned around. They're a very solid team. Merrimack is just bad, real bad. Yeah. So, when I saw -3, I went ahead and jumped on it way ahead when we had especially with the early projections. So.
Yep, absolutely. All right, well, that's all we've got for you then today. Jake, any parting words?
No, I'm pretty sure I kind of have it on in the background. Arizona State pulled out the win, so I think that's even better.
I think they did pull out the win for us here. So lots of good things happening. Hopefully we can continue that throughout the rest of the week here. But otherwise, thanks for tuning into this episode of Picks with the Professor. Don't forget to subscribe so you can enjoy all the sports betting content provided on this channel is dropped right into your feed. We'll be back again tomorrow with more sports betting content. Until then, as always, best of luck. And remember, you can eat your betting money, but please don't bet your eating money.